Hey, good morning, everybody. Bob, Trade Genius. The 7th of November, I'm going to walk through the market here a little bit. And once again, we had an overnight rip, 20 points. And it's getting to be a little bit of a joke here. It was trade news that was deliberately misrepresented so that they could push the Algos to squeeze shorts. And then once again, we're now confronted at the opening at the overnight highs. And usually when that happens, you get the market usually sells off into the open here. You know, we're still kind of S-curving up higher here a little bit, but this is the highs from Friday. We're kind of right there, so it's going to be interesting to see how high they could push this market before they find some real sellers here. And that's basically what these algos are looking for. They haven't found any people selling, which is amazing. Everybody's in passive funds right now, and none of the managers are selling. And I just fear we're just going to wake up to some pretty incredible gap downs on some sort of disappointment that even beyond the PPT's ability to protect the market. And you know, underneath the surface, there are a lot of liquidity leaving this market. So this is being increasingly propped up by less and less buyers. And I always equate it to I live here in Southern California, where real estate is a sport. And going into the last, during 2006 to 2008 area, is that from 2004 2006 their homes were just going crazy. I mean, I think my home was going up like 5% a quarter. I mean, just ridiculous. I can't even afford to live in my own home if I had to buy it today. I mean, that's how much it went up in value. And it got to the point where there was just one or two sales that were carrying the average. And that's what's happening here in the market. It looks like everything has high value, but it's on less and less and less what they call breadth, or the number of people participating. It's getting to the larger and larger mega caps. It's the way these indexes are structured. And then somebody's just gonna pull on the thread, and then we're just gonna give up the whole thing. And it usually happens within a couple days. So, you know, what I'm looking at, and my speculation, because that's all it is, because I don't know, like everybody else, but my speculation is that we'll give up this entire move here at some point very soon. The put call ratio is at 0.54. The VIX is down to, take a look. The VIX this morning is down to 12.6. You know, so what's carrying this market is funds coming from, ultimately, from central banks around the world jamming our markets. So let's take a quick look at the yen here. So when this yen pair is rising like this, that means the Japanese are shoving money into our market. It looks like, if you can see that, our market just popped. And let's see what the euro is doing. The euro is actually moving up a little bit. That's not a bullish sign, which is interesting, because usually they're trying to sell it off. Ignore that. This is where I took some shorts and longs on my trading system. I just made notes to myself. Let me just clear that off. And then when they do that, they screw around with gold. Okay, but gold's holding its own here. They're having a hell of a time trying to short gold. And let's take a look at silver. Same with silver. In the past, they would knock this thing down at, $100 on gold, no sweat. And here they're struggling to get this market down. People are talking about, gotta look at copper and see what copper's doing. See, they're trying to bid copper up here. I personally just don't see it, other than if it's simply a currency hedge, because everywhere around the world is decelerating. And if you looked at auto sales and inventories on auto sales, and that's what I call that an apex industry. Is when that goes, it just ripples through the supply chains, and it ripples through communities, and so and that you have a hard time, especially Germany. A lot of their GDP is centered around the automotive industry, and so they're rapidly going into a recession. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to go back to the SPY here. I shorted this morning at this is SPX. I shorted this morning at 30.89 on the ES. So I'm at 87. So I'm up to, this is a longer term play for me, and I'm looking to see if I can get a substantial move down in at the open. And typically what happens here is they try to test this. They'll try to test this overnight high, and if they can't test it and that fails, then they're going to test the overnight low. And that's what happened yesterday. They tested the overnight high really fast, and then we had a huge sell-off, broke through the overnight low, and then they bid it up from there all day long. So 84% of the time we're gonna end up between these two numbers here for the day. And you get burned too. I got a little stung yesterday thinking that it would just keep falling, and then I had to cover my short here because it turned right around, and it stayed. So here's the overnight, okay, and so they had a 20-point move, which is not unusual. What's unusual is that they use fake news to do it. And the other thing that people don't realize is that, and if I was still in Hawaii, I would have been awake, so I could have traded this long. But this is usually like from 11 p.m. California time to like 12:30 to 1. You tend to get a spike more often than you get a move down, and then it usually till about 2:30 it usually sells off. And this time it was a slight sell off to about it was hardly anything, and then it moved up, and then it's just been drifting down. My suspicion is that we'll probably come down and test this at some point, and that's when I'll cover. I think they're gonna have a difficult time continuing to move this up during regular hours. Now they may spike it again tonight for tomorrow, but I'm just looking at it from a day trade for today, and to see where it ends up. So anyway, in energy, it looks like oil got a pop, but it looks like it's starting to sell off here. Let me go show that to you real quick too. So here's U.S. oil, and on the 15-minute, it's still doing good. You have a little bit of a top candle here. Let me zoom down to the 5-minute. Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit overbought here, and my money flow's flashing a warning at the upper end of the channel. Usually that's when I take notice of it. We're still trending up though, and we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on it. I doubt I'll trade it today, but I have some energy companies, and this is kind of like what's happened in 2007, where they bid energy to bid the market, and then energy loses it, and then the market follows. So if you want to know kind of where the market you think is going to go, just keep watching energy, because this is a lot of where the big money comes in, especially when Europe opens, and then usually we start faltering after Europe closes, and then at the end of the day you usually get your end of the day low liquidity ramp. Just some things to think about if you day trade. Well, anyway, that's kind of where we are, and if you want to trade with us, go to tradelikeagenius.com. We'll help you make money nearly every day in the market. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great one, and we'll see kind of how this day ends up. Bye-bye.